Recording. So welcome back. This is our final session. So excited to have you guys here. So in our last session, we talked about idea to implementation. And what I would love to do is, did anybody do their homework? Did anybody create an idea that you kind of want to talk through a little bit? Nobody did their homework? Come on, you guys.
Between. We've been spending so much time with you.
I know.
So I actually have an idea to build on. We've been, well, before COVID time lockdown, we met at a little local coffee tea shop, and in their back room had conferences. So we would do classes back there once a month. And then of course stopped. And so we've been starting it up a couple of months now, and people just weren't ready and it just weren't committed and everything. And so we started doing just a quick little DIY. We took all the supplies and everything. So all they had to do was just like follow, do this. And so that seemed to have gotten more people interested.
Okay.
So now and then we recently, just last 2 months, started up doing that in our homes again, which we did a ton of before too.
Yeah.
But that has not picked up yet. So it's figuring out how to get people in our homes as well, or additional or
Okay.
such.
So let's think about, let's work through the worksheet. Okay. So you kind of brain dumped a little bit, right? You got a couple of ideas kind of forming their, coffee shops, in-home classes, DIY classes, etc. So really, what are we going to work through is, what results do you want to achieve? Like, you got to start there. What is it that you're actually trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? So that's going to go in square one, right? And then, what's the problem that you're solving? Who are you trying to help? Okay. So think about that. And then what's worked before? So you kind of mentioned a couple of things that have worked before, and COVID has really, in my opinion, really forced entrepreneurs to shift and pivot and look at things in a completely different way, right? Going from in-person workshops to doing virtual things. Can you do virtual classes? Can you do, hybrid? Really just thinking about what's worked before. What are some ideas you can borrow? So think about, what are other people doing in your space and other even spaces, and how might you take what they're doing and how could you apply that to your business? Okay, so like one thing that I'm trying to remember who did it. It was it might have been Joyce. I feel like it might have been Joyce, or it may have been Monica. I can't even remember. Somebody that I know that does essential oils created, I think it was Joyce. She put together little baby samples of certain oils. And if people registered in advance, because they were local, she would go and drop them off at their porch, or if there was time, she would mail them the samples in order to participate in a home class. So then everybody would show up on Zoom, and they would, bring out the oils that were, told them which one we're going to focus on. And these are the benefits. Smell the oil, put it on, blah, 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 blah. And kind of did education that way. So she always kind of seemed to have like a theme around the oils, right? And whether it's cleaning, whether it was pain relief, whether it was allergies, whether it was, I don't know, some sort of home remedy, but she always kind of had a theme to kind of get people to come in and like, oh, I want to learn more about that. So
yeah, and that's we actually have been doing that. We do, like in the holidays, we just took little beads and a wire, and people could thread them with different colored beads, and then a ribbon was where you diffuse. And this month I think we're going to do a household cleaner spray bottles. I mean, super easy.
Yeah.
Add the cleaner, add the water.
Make and takes kind of thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, because
Okay.
people seem to really enjoy those.
Yeah. And then think about who could be a potential collaboration partner, right? So is there anyone outside of your industry that might want to come in together and do an event with you together? Okay. So
That one
then
sounds like a good one.
we talked about the habits, right? Remember,
Mhm.
discipline, consistency, accountability. And so now that you kind of know, like after you fill that section out, now you're going to go back to the ideas that you were talking about and decide which one of those ideas falls into alignment with everything you just wrote down. Then you break out the who, what, when, where, why, how, and get the details ironed out. Then you're going to get started on the tasks that have to be completed in order to make this a reality.
Okay.
Okay. Does
Mhm.
that help now? So I don't want you being super scatterbrained with all the different things. I want you to fill this out first and then figure out which one of those ideas is going to be the one that you are going to want to move forward with.
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah, that gives
Okay.
me process to go through.
Okay, good. All right. So, so let's talk about the calendar. Okay. So the reason why I wanted to include this CEO calendar and categorizing it is because now we're talking about tasks and things that need to get done in our business. And the best way, I can make a million to-do lists. I can make a million to-do lists. And guess what? Sometimes they don't get done because I haven't actually put time in my calendar to get them done. And I started noticing that. I'm like, wow, I'm not getting a lot done here because, you know, my calendar, I was not in control of my calendar. And it was right as COVID started. And so everybody's connecting online. And I literally had one day where I was back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And I was like, well, shit, I got nothing done. No work done. All I did was spend the day connecting with people. And that's not that I don't enjoy that, but I did not feel productive at all. Right. And so I'm like, okay, something has to change here because this is not working. It's not working. So what I wanted to do was create a calendar that is a reflection of the life and the business that I want to have. Okay. So let me tell you what I had to do. The first thing that I had to do was I needed to make a list of my non-negotiables. What are the things that I'm not, that are like priorities? This isn't set in stone. Do you know what's one of the things that's set in stone for me? A 2-hour lunch break. I have a 2-hour lunch break in my calendar every single day. Why is that? Because my husband and my daughter happen to have days off during the week. Their days off are not weekends. And so we like to go to lunch, and I don't want to rush because I have a meeting or something like that. So I give myself from 12 to 2 is blocked out in my calendar, red, blocked out, so that we can go have lunch and we can spend time together. We can fiddle fart around, go to Home Goods if we want to, after we go to Chipotle, whatever, right? Being able to have that flexibility because that's important to me. So what's important to you? What is something that you want to say? Like when you think about having a business, you think about having time freedom and financial freedom. But what does that actually look like? What does time freedom actually mean to you? Is time freedom that you take every Friday off? Right? Is time freedom that you get to have 2 weeks vacation anytime you want to, and your business can still operate without you? So you got to figure out what that looks like. How do you want to actually create a life And what does it actually look like? Put it down on paper. I call it creating the dream calendar, which is what we're going to do. But first we got to figure out what our non-negotiables are. So if you have, like, I used to give myself, every morning was my hour to do whatever the hell I wanted to do. So I would set my alarm to wake up at 7, but I didn't actually start my day until 8. So it meant that I had from 7 to 8 to do whatever the hell I wanted to do. And if that meant I wanted to lay in bed and watch TV, then that's what I did. If I wanted to read a book, that's what I did. If I wanted to listen to a podcast, that's what I did. I got to choose. Self-care came first. I was the priority. Right? If you have personal appointments that you have on a regular basis, if you have meetings that are already kind of set in stone, I put those in my calendar first. So think about printing out, like I included on here, like a blank calendar, but what you're going to do is you're going to kind of make a list on the non-negotiable activities. So you have this little worksheet here, right? So you're going to make a list of what the non-negotiables are. You're going to put those in here first, right? And the frequency, how often are they, or when are they? And how many hours or days per week do you want to do that? Okay. Then we move on to the second step, which is make a list of everything you do in your business. Okay. Make a list of everything that you do in your business. So is that meeting with clients? Do you do consultations? Do you do parties? Do you teach classes? Do you do social media marketing? Do you do live videos once a week or once a day or whatever? You're going to have to make a list. Okay. Because then the second part of this is you're going to ask yourself, which of these activities generates income and which of these activities does not generate income? Hosting parties generates income. That's an income producing activity. Hosting events can generate income. Doing a Facebook Live? Maybe, right? You never know. Depends on what it's about. Okay. So I made a list. These are some examples of income producing activities. Can include, but is not limited to, right? So you get to fill out, you get to figure out for yourself what they are. So sending proposals, emailing a list emailing your list with an offer, sending out an affiliate offer, asking current clients for referrals or recommendations or testimonials, asking past clients for referrals, following up with referrals, setting up product demos, answering new lead inquiries, connecting with potential collaboration partners, lead attraction, as in building relationships, adding value, doing call to actions, marketing, such as speaking, teaching, video, or content creation. Those are examples of what I consider to be income producing activities for my business. But what about your business? Okay, so add the things that you do in your business. Client activities, because we need to be able to, what do we do to help our clients? So for me, I have to prepare proposals, send contracts, do payment plans, right? That's a client activity. I also do done for you work. So I need to make sure that I have time set aside to do client work, as in I'm actually building websites and landing pages and opt-ins and all the email, blah, 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 all the things, right? So consultations, coaching sessions, phone calls, doing check-ins, which is something I do regularly with my clients, doing group management, like my Facebook group, engaging with people there. And then of course, like I said, design and the behind the scenes done for you services. So those are what I call client activities for my business. What are client activities for your business? non-income producing activities, social media, blogging, bookkeeping, videos, designing graphics, blogging, goal planning, delegating stuff to my assistant, and personal appointments, right? Those do not generate income for me, but they still have to get done, right? So you just got to make time for them. And then how about business or personal development? If that is something that's important to you, which is always important to me, I always want to be in a state of learning, then I want to set aside time to do those activities, which can be reading, attending classes, coaching, like receiving coaching, right? Receiving coaching. Being a guest on someone's podcast or me doing my podcast, teaching workshops, self-care, right? So then what you're going to do, you make your list, and then you're going to fill this section out of your workbook where you have your non-negotiables, your income producing activities, your clients or service activities, non-income producing activities, educational, personal development, etc. And then other, right? Because sometimes you don't know where the hell to put the thing that you need to do, right? You need another category. We always need other. So literally all you're going to do is just figure out, here's a list of everything I do. Now I'm going to categorize everything I do. So then I can figure out how much time do I need in order to successfully do this. And if your non-negotiable is that you take every Friday off, guess what you're going to do? Block it out. Nothing gets scheduled on the days that you are deciding that you want to have that time freedom. You want to have family time, right? When do you want to do that? Block it out in your calendar. Okay. So now here's what I do. Instead of adding tasks to my calendar, I add categories to my calendar. This is what works for me. Okay, so all I'm sharing is how I did it. This is what I do for my own sanity. Okay, so the first thing I add in, my non-negotiables. When am I going to do that? When am I going to do income producing activities? When am I going to do client activities? When am I going to do non-income producing and admin work? What about educational, etc.? And I like to color code, right? Color coding makes me happy. And guess what color my income producing activities are? Green for money, right? So make it fun, right? Anything that's polka dot is pink, right? So anything that's around like that whole thing, I've color coded it so that it kind of, I don't know, like everything has a color. Non-negotiables are red. Stop, do not book, do not basically book things during this time. Okay. So then what I do is now that I've kind of like figured that out, then I write it down on a blank calendar first. So like map out what it looks like. And I'm not going to lie to you. This is essentially what I had to do was I printed out like an existing Google Calendar that I already had kind of filled out. I printed out like a month, like next month maybe, so that I can kind of start figuring all of these stuff out. And I start looking for recurring patterns, right? So if I know I have networking things, those are like, I put all of my recurring appointments in first. Then I'm going to build around my calendar and these activities. I'm going to put in income producing activities first, right? So after I've put in my recurring already existing appointments, my non-negotiables, now I add in my income producing activities first. So for example, every Friday morning at 9 a.m., I have a 1 hour block to do an income producing activity. Right? Set in stone. That's the way that I've set it up. And on my Google Calendar, blocked out, can schedule an appointment there. Okay. So basically what I've done is I've created open time to have for people to schedule connects on my calendar, to schedule consultations on my calendar, to schedule my podcast on my calendar, right? So I've basically said, these are the 3 days from this time to this time. I'm leaving open for people to schedule on my calendar, but everything else has been blocked out so that I have the time to get done all the shit that I get to do because I love doing it, but I got to make time to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to be a hot mess express. And you don't want to see Elaine as a hot mess express. Is not pretty at all. So you can kind of see like my little Google Calendar here, like my example of basically how I've set it up. And then I utilize Google's amazing feature, recurring appointments. Okay. Recurring appointments allows me to basically create a schedule to where now I kind of have like a routine because my brain thrives on schedules and routines and things like that, right? I can be a little adventurous sometimes, right? And do things maybe not on the calendar, but I also like to make sure that somewhere along the lines, I may give myself flex time. Because what happens if there's an emergency? What happens if my daughter calls and says, Mom, I was just in a car accident, and I'm like, well, I gotta go. So, and I'm supposed to be doing income producing activities. It can wait, right? Family always comes first. So I have like built-in little nestings of flex time somewhere so I can swap things and say, okay, so Friday at 3, I have flex time and it's Tuesday at 10 and my daughter calls and she needs me. So now I'm just going to swap. You see what I'm saying? So one of the things that I also like to mention is that when you are setting these things up, if you're using Google Calendar, make sure that you utilize the feature that says busy or free. So when you are setting up these appointments, that you essentially make sure that you mark that you're busy if this is an activity that is not where you want people to be able to schedule in a time on your calendar. Because if you screw that up, guess what happens? People schedule time on your calendar and like, wait, but how did this happen? So you got to make sure that you are utilizing, go all the way and do this on your computer, guys. I'm just telling you right now, doing it on your desktop is so much easier than doing this on your phone. Okay.
I have a question, Elaine.
Yes, Monica.
One of the reasons why I haven't used the Calendly or any of those electronic calendars is that I ran into an issue where, yeah, I've got like 3 hours in a row and then people book them, but it's like, well, one person wanted to meet me, one wanted a call, and one wanted a Zoom. Well, the in-person one I was going to have to travel to, so then that means I had to cut it short. So do you put in there call times, Zoom times, and in-person times?
Okay, so here's what I do. So each one of my, like I use youcanbook.me. Okay. It works better for my brain. Calendly, my brain could not really process how to use Calendly. And so what I did is you can actually, if you use the pro version, which costs me $10 a month, it allows me to have a buffer in between the meetings. So now instead of having back to back to back to back to back, it gives me like, I can give myself a 30-minute window between appointments. So I can take care of myself. I can use the restroom. I can make a snack. I can, return an email or check in, return someone's message on Facebook or whatever, right? I didn't want to have this situation that I put myself in before, which was back to back to back to back to back appointments. So maybe what you could do is, and you can also, like, I've had to do this before where someone's, because we've been virtual now for so long, that when people are like, I want to meet in person, I'm like, wow, yay, like an in-person thing, like, oh my gosh, but I need to, like, I would just go in manually and adjust the time so that I'm giving myself a more buffer before and after. So I'm giving myself travel time and then giving myself travel time back home. So that way, like, the next appointment would not start right as the other one is ending. Like, I want to give myself that buffer. Does that make sense?
Yes, but there isn't one that you can decipher or delegate in person, Zoom, or call appointments.
Well, when people sign up for an appointment on my calendar, I ask them what their preferred method to connect is. And then from there, because it'll send me an email that someone's booked a time on my calendar, then I can go in if I need to and manually make adjustments to the calendar.
Okay, all right.
Does that make
Thank you.
sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Oh, what was that again? It was book me what?
You can book.me.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll
Thank
I'll put my calendar in the chat so you can actually go and see what mine looks like. Because the paid version, like I said, I don't get an affiliate for this, like they don't have an affiliate program, but it allows me to have, like, allow people to choose the type of appointment they want to have. So I could say 30-minute call, 1 hour call, 2 hour call, like you can set the different times for each type of an appointment. So if something is just going to take 30 minutes, you could set it as they're booking a 30-minute appointment, and then you can set it up on the back end to have a buffer if you wanted to. And if you need help setting this up, Monica, just let me know.
Oh, I'm technically challenged. Better, very much better, but still not a millennial.
Yeah, I'm not a millennial. I'm Gen Z. I'm Gen X girl. So I got you.
Yeah, and Monica, Elaine turned me on to this too. And one of the things I like is as soon as the person, signs up, you get a message. Like Elaine said, like if you didn't put the right buffer, you can automatically just jump into your calendar. And if I only had an hour there, but again, like you're saying, if it's in person, I'll just go in and say like, ooh, hour drive time too, and then hour drive time, back. And now that blocks anybody from jumping on. So it's so easy and it's very, very intuitive and so simple. I get the technology challenge. And this is like the simplest one. I just converted from Acuity I was using, and this is so much easier.
Yeah.
Do you have the paid version as well?
Yes. And it's worth the $10.
Worth the $10 a month. And then it will send reminder emails. You can also sign up for text feature where it'll text someone a reminder, and you can set how far in advance you want them to get that message. So I just pay, it's like 10 cents a text message, and you just, I don't know, pays $5. And then when you run out of credits, they let you know, hey, you're running out of credits, buy more credits. Totally worth it. I can't even remember the last time I've been stood up. Right? People might reschedule, and that's fine. Right? Rescheduling is fine, but people that just aren't showing up, I haven't had that problem anymore because of this reminder system. Now, I don't send reminders 24 hours in advance because I've been on the receiving end of that, and I thought I missed the meeting. Like I panicked because I was like, oh no, oh my God, it's tomorrow. It literally sent me into a panic that I forgot about something or I put in the wrong date or something like that. So I do 1 hour is great, right? I don't need a 24-hour advanced reminder about our appointment, right? I don't need 24-hour reminder. Just an hour is good.
That's good to know that you don't, but most of the time I am texting people going, we're still on for tomorrow at this time, and they're going, can we reschedule, or yeah, we're good.
Yeah, so you can, I mean, it really just kind of eliminates the need for me to check in with them. And then I also have it set up so when it sends the reminder email, I have gone in and already added my Zoom link to it so that, or my phone number, so that way they're not having to hunt for it. It's literally right there. I just sent them a reminder. And and then in the email, it'll give them the option to cancel or reschedule the appointment. And I don't have to do anything. They can literally just go pick a new time.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
As long as your calendar is set up properly.
Correct. Your
Right.
calendar has to be set up properly. So
Yeah.
that's why using Google Calendar, I mean, I know there are people that are still paper calendar people, and that's okay. But if you were to create, use the Google Calendar for your activities and use your paper calendar for the actual appointments, that might, because then you'll be able to actually allow people to schedule on your calendar without having to go back and forth with your paper calendar. So if you're like, okay, I'm going to design my calendar, how I want to run my business in advance, all color coded, here you go. And then you could, when you get an email that someone booked a time, you could just go in and write it in your paper calendar if you want to.
Yeah, I used to print it out weekly so that I had whatever was booked for the week.
Yeah,
But-
and you could, and the cool thing is that you can do that. You just open up your Google Calendar and it'll show you the appointments. You can click on it, get more information. It'll show you exactly who booked an appointment and for what reason. I have custom questions as well when people are booking an appointment. I ask them if they'd like to be added to my list. I ask them, is there anything I need to know before our call? Like, give me some kind of hint of why you want to talk to me.
I have to say, Elaine, like this project, been an entrepreneur for a long time now. And, part of being an entrepreneur for probably many of us is having that freedom to create our own schedule. But what I noticed is that I didn't set enough boundaries. And here it is, like I set my life to have like more freedom, and I was almost feeling like I had less freedom.
Yeah.
And so going through this process of like, when is it I really want to work? And it gave me that structure. And for the longest time, like structure, but really learning that structure really actually provides freedom. And that was a big shift for me, but this was really, really helpful. It was like the final thing that I needed, but I really got it when we went through this.
Yeah. And so that's why, you mentioned boundaries, which is, I'm just going to be really, really honest with you. Honoring the calendar. So you have to think about future me wanted me to do this. And here is current me trying to finagle a way out of it. Because future me said, here's your goal. Here's the things I want you to do in order to accomplish this goal. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And then current me is like, oh God, but I don't actually want to do that. Like, we have really good intentions when we set the goal, when we decide how we want to structure our calendar, but then you have to actually honor the calendar. So the discipline, remember, showing up even when you don't want to, doing the things that are uncomfortable. Future you said, this is what I want. So are you going to honor what past you wanted you to do? Or are you going to come up with an excuse? Is current you going to come up with an excuse of why you shouldn't or why you don't have to do that thing anymore? Honoring the calendar, honoring the boundaries. You essentially were creating the plan, and now you actually have to follow through with the plan that your future self wanted you to do. You are your own worst enemy, right? You are both the problem and the solution. Just you. Nobody else. Just you. If you don't do the thing that you put on your calendar, it only is hurting you. And that's a really hard pill to swallow when you realize that. like I'm the reason that it's not working, shit. Right? Nothing changes if nothing changes. So you have to decide, what are you going to do in order to do something different? So what I would love to hear are, what are some things that you want to put on your calendar? What are things, priorities, things that you are like, this is what you're committing to? Because remember, if you share it, now you're telling people, and there's our little tiny thing called accountability coming up, right? Is that if you tell people, they might actually hold you to it. So if you are brave and willing to be vulnerable and share the things that you really want to do, I would love to open up the space and give you the opportunity to do that. All right, Julie, what do you got?
My counting, I've been terrible at with my just keeping track of my accounting, both expenses and incoming. And so I got to get that on the calendar. Like when I was in corporate, like it was like every Sunday, like I knew I had an expense sheet. I knew I had to get that in. I knew I had to get those hours in. Like it wasn't even like a conversation. It was part of my job. But I have just allowed that to fall apart. And now I didn't do my taxes this year yet, right? I had to file an extension because I didn't do the system that I needed to. And it's forcing me to do it now, but I'm still like in resistant mode.
So let me ask you this question. How often do you need to enter expenses? Is this a weekly thing, a monthly thing?
I would say a weekly thing. Yeah,
Okay.
just being committed to the monthly thing and income coming in. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So maybe what you could do is, bookkeeping is a non-income producing activity or an admin activity. And so here's the thing is that if you put it on your, admin activity every Friday at 4 o'clock, for example, right? Now you have a list of the things that you could go, oh, I need to go ahead and enter my receipts for the week. And then if I have more time, I can move on to another admin activity. So I want to show you guys also a little tool that I use as far as tasks are concerned. So I created this thing and it says task, right? And there's Julie, right? Here's Julie's thing that I'm working on, but I have a little thing on here that says estimated time. So let me show you one that where I actually did that. So like this one, okay? And I highlight stuff so I put like, okay, it's going to take me 10 minutes to do that thing. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of projecting how much time is this thing going to take me? And then what I do is I'm like, okay, I've got 20 minutes before my next meeting. I go to my list and I say, is there anything on my list that will take me 20 minutes or less? Boom, get it done. Right? Then I could also, if I wanted to, I could color code this bad boy and do client activities, income producing activity. Like I could actually use this as well for that purpose, but it really is just, I call them not so sticky notes because they're not sticky, but they're notes to myself. So instead of having sticky notes everywhere of the things that I need to do, I just have it on a paper, on a clipboard so that I don't lose it and it's shiny and pretty. So
how do you support those of us who, we put a task down, we say it's 10 minutes, but then we allow ourselves like 2 hours. So remember like yesterday, like I told you I was going to get it done in 30 minutes and I could have spent like 2 hours on it. What's your trick for that to kind of stay in like integrity?
So I give myself more time than it actually is. So then if I wind up with I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So I put down 30 minutes and it only took me 15. Well, now I have 15 minutes where I can get up and take the dog to go potty and I can, reply to an email or something like that. Right. So it's really about using the calendar. I've categorized, what I'm supposed to be doing when, so that way I have that mapped out. And then when it's time to do the things, to actually do the things in the categories, I have this to try to keep me on track. Right? So as long as I'm, if it goes over, it goes over. Like shit happens. Right? But you get to decide. It's your business, right? You get to decide how you want to spend your time. Right?
I kind of like that task list versus I always try to do a to-do list But
Mhm.
seeing it that way, it's almost like you get to kind of do this like check thing versus like in a notebook. I'm kind of like, ooh, and I'm such a visual person that that actually would work for me more. I gotta
Yeah. And
practice
this
that.
works well for me because I'm so paranoid that I'm going to forget something or someone. Right? So then I write it down and I can go back and go, oh shit, I didn't do that yet. You're right. And then I go through and I use a highlighter to say, what have I not done so that I can easily see it? And then I can just cross it out. And I just print out more pages when I need it and add to it. Mhm.
Yeah, like they have that in the computer, but when the pop-up comes and then I just click it, right? Like I can ignore it. Anyone else do that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
I think on the piece of paper, it doesn't get lost.
Yeah. So like, for example, right now I'm supposed to be doing, I have consultations, clients and connections is on my calendar and until 5 p.m. Right? I only have one appointment after this. So when I'm done with that, now I can decide, I don't have any people that have scheduled time on my calendar, which means now I can take that time and I can do other things with it. Right? So now I can say, okay, what do I need? What's on my list of things that are priorities right now? Okay. Is this helping at all? Okay. Okay. So anyone else want to share what's something on your calendar that you really want to do and honor and all the things? All right, Yvonne, I see you kind of moving there. You going to share?
Yes, so I need to work on I want to work on the farm and I want to go and have fun with my friends. But
Okay.
I don't keep a schedule and I just kind of wing it.
Okay. So then maybe having flex time, right? Giving yourself flex time. So farm work, does that typically, do you notice a pattern of when you're doing farm stuff on the farm?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's snowing, so right now I can't
Right.
do anything.
Right. Right. So, being able to have a flexible schedule is completely up to you. This is the system that worked for me, but you got to figure out what works for you. Right. And so you could have contingency days where you could say, well, shit, it's snowing. So maybe I'm going to implement Friday to today. Right. Maybe I have a couple of dream schedules. And I'm going to go ahead and but being able to be flexible is the freedom of being an entrepreneur.
So my thing is I'd rather do something fun with my friends than sit down at my computer and work.
Of course.
Right. And so part of me is resisting putting things into categories and putting things into times because I don't want to be boxed in to time frames.
Right. So here's something that you have to consider. Is your business not fun? Because if you're like, if the thing is working in front of your computer is going to generate things that are fun, like we have to do a little bit of pre-work in order to make that happen, a little bit of planning. And if there are things that are on your list that are not fun, then delegate those things to somebody who can do it. So remember when I talked about $1,000 an hour? If you're getting paid $1,000 an hour, what is it? Why are you doing a $10 an hour activity? Right? So who can help you? Who can support you in making that actually happen so that you then have time to do the things that you actually want to do? So we avoid things that we don't want to do because they're not fun. There's fear involved, right? So what if you said, you know what? I don't really want to send emails to people. I'm going to ask someone else to do that for me. Pay someone to do it for you. Because if having fun is your priority, then make that your priority.
I think I sabotage myself though, because I will make whatever I'm doing fun related to business. It's like, oh, well, this is a business activity now.
Okay. So
Which
when's the
is-
last time you did a personal fun activity?
I mean, I think my whole life is so much fun. So
Mhm.
I don't know how to delineate it. Like tomorrow I set up a hot springs gathering for a bunch of girlfriends.
Okay.
And we're gonna drive to the hot springs and then do lunch here. But I have stuff like my lavender lemonade or my rosemary hummus and like things that I've made that have essential oils in it, and they're all looking forward to it. So it's now my work time, but it's fun.
What if you decided that you're not going to talk about work, that you're just going to focus on having fun? And the fact that you made them, great. Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed them. But it doesn't have to turn into, do you want to buy some? And just really just focus on being present and doing the things that are fun. Right. And so you don't have to wear a business like all the time. You are Yvonne first, who happens to have a business. And we have businesses because we want to be able to have more freedom with our family, our friends, our finances, our time. But if you're a business owner 24 hours a day, where does that leave room for Yvonne?
Yeah. Well,
So-
it's not that I'm talking about business. I mean, I do everything not to talk about it, but someone always brings up like, oh, what oil would you use for this? Or, oh, you smell good. I mean, it's always that thing. So it comes up and then we talk about it, but I don't tell them, oh, you need to buy it right now, or here's my
Right.
link or anything. Right?
So what if instead, when someone says, wow, you smell good, say thank you. And leave it at that, right? If someone says, hey, what oil would you use for that? You could say, you know what? Let me get back to you. Right? I don't know right off the top of my head. It's kind of, I need to look it up when I get home, and I'll send you a message. I'll make a note.
But that is so not like me. Okay.
I know, but like, how is Yvonne going to be able to ever relax and have fun if you're always on?
Right.
Right?
Okay.
You know, I know how you feel. I really do. Like when we had our in-person polka dot things, right? I could show up and I was a very different person than when I'm just like at home by myself, just hanging out, right? It's like you got to put on, I'm like acting, right? Like I'm putting on this personality. And then when I get home, I can take it off and just, which is why when people that know me, if we're with my husband's family and we're like in a family gathering, I become the quiet one. Because finally, I don't have to talk. I can let him talk. And then I get to hear the same stories over and over and over and over again. And I'm okay with it. Right? But I don't have to be on all the time. And that was a hard thing. It was a hard thing especially when I was a photographer. Everybody, are you going to bring your camera? No, I'm not being paid to come here and photograph your event. I'm coming as a guest. So I'm not bringing my camera, because camera equals work and work equals money. So, right? So I had to like, no, not doing that.
Okay, I'll practice it tomorrow. I'll let you know.
Great. Practice, 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 practice. And you're not going to get it right the first time, and it's okay. You know, but you could also tell your friends, hey, I'm really looking forward to this. And I don't want to talk about work. I just want to be present with you guys. Tell them up front that what you're looking forward to. Okay. Anyone else want to share? I'm so rambly today. Denise is like, no, you're not. All right. So I hope you guys have really gotten something out of the last, 3 days. I would, if there's anything, I would love to hear if you have a major takeaway, something that you plan to implement into your business. One thing. Anyone wanna share? Like, what's the one thing that you plan on taking with you and implementing?
I like the task list. So that task box thing, that's going to be a game changer for me. And I think
Okay.
overall, Elaine, like you're so organized, and I know it's taken a while to get there. But again, there is this freedom that comes to having that structure. And I really want to really lean into that more for myself. So thank you for being a model of where I want to eventually go. It's not going to change overnight. But
Right.
thank you for being an example.
And I will send this to you. Like, I will send you these sheets so you can print them out. And if anybody else wants that, just let me know and I'll send it to you.
That's me.
Okay.
And also it's like my big takeaway is I did the Facebook post
Yeah.
and did this a couple of years ago, and people knew what I did for a living, I guess, on both sides. And it was interesting that it was more of a personal thing, the feedback more than the business thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I post a lot about the mortgage stuff, not so much about the oil stuff, because my mortgage boss owner, he gets mad because he thinks I should only focus on his business. So it's been kind of tiptoeing around that.
Mhm.
But I was really surprised that nobody had mentioned mortgage when I post 2 or 3 days a week on a mortgage thing.
Are you posting that on your personal?
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything about mortgage from you.
really. I usually post it in the stories.
Oh yeah, I don't go to stories.
Oh. Well, that's good to know too.
Yeah. Yeah. I rarely go to stories for some reason. I don't know why, but I just feel like I just scroll, click, 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 click. And my brain is like, it's overloaded. So I don't go there.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad, what it does though, is it kind of helps, hopefully will help you figure out like, what do you need to change moving forward in order to rebuild back up the brand of mortgage,
I'm actually trying to get out of mortgage, so
Okay.
it will be okay. But I was just really surprised that people didn't mention that.
Yeah.
They mentioned having a home, which basically I know that I did their loan,
Mhm.
but they didn't say, you helped me finance the home. They just said my home,
Gotcha. Okay.
just kind of interesting.
Yeah. That is interesting.
But yeah, it gives me some ideas
Okay.
on
Yeah.
how to brand for the new journey.
Okay. Good. Good. I can't wait to hear about it. You'll have to tell me all about it. Sheila, how about you? What's been your takeaway?
Oh, wow. I've got like 2 pages per class of notes because I'm also a schedule and a note taker and list, so I can go back over. So a lot of it was just really trying to pull things together, simplify, organize. And so like the task sheet you were talking about, that gives more flexibility. A question with the calendar, do you put personal things on there? So when somebody goes to choose their appointment time, do they see your personal information?
They don't see, all they see is this time is available. They don't see what I have on my calendar.
They don't see everything else. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just the days
No.
you have set for
Yep.
scheduling time.
Yep.
Okay, good.
These are the times that are open, and nothing shows like if you go click on my calendar link, you'll see, just click one and it'll show you like what's open, but you don't see like, I have this meeting here at this time, right? It doesn't show anything like that.
Okay, got it.
That would be very invasive.
Yeah, and that's what was my concern. I was trying to read some of the small print on your example one in the workbook. But I didn't want to be paying attention to that and not listening to you. So I just thought I'd ask, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. Clarification is always good, right? Good.
Yeah, because I would have done it otherwise. It's like, they don't need to know this about me or my life.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that would be very invasive. So they do not do that.
Okay,
Okay. And the Google Calendar, you can share it with anyone you want to, but you're not sharing the Google Calendar. You're sharing a link that is connected to your Google Calendar, which then will display what you have available for appointments.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
Okay. Because you can have like family calendars and, shared calendars and things like that, but that's not what I'm talking about. Okay.
okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah. Philip, how about you? You have a takeaway, something you're going to implement into your business?
A bunch. Cultivating the brand with my values, keeping that in mind. I think that's going to be really key. I like the ideas to implementation too. I think
Mhm.
I tend to have crazy ideas and they're not really income producing ideas. They're just, I want to get my name out there, or
Mhm.
like it's not necessarily going to generate anything. So,
And that's
Uh,
okay. Like as long as you are knowing that that's the result you're going for,
Yeah. but at some point I need to put income producing activities in the forefront. So
Yeah. Right.
I will be like kind of blocking out on my calendar income producing activities. I think that's going to
Good.
be just something to motivate me to
Mhm.
say, time this hour or whatever is going
Yeah.
to be focused on
Yeah.
my business.
Power hours.
Yep.
Power hour. Are you going to try to consider teaching classes or anything like that?
So I think I'm going to try and create a course. I don't know.
Okay.
That was one of my ideas that I was trying to flesh out. But also I want to work with employers and like
Okay.
approach employers and
Okay.
see if I could create something similar to like an EAP offering where there's
Okay.
a financial wellness component that I could get the employer to flip the bill for some of that.
Okay.
So that was my other idea to implementation idea
Okay.
that I need to flesh out. So,
Okay. Awesome. Fantastic. How about you, Yvonne?
I'm gonna do that task list and put times next to them so I can keep track
Okay.
and actually see if it really does take the time I think it does, and
Mhm.
fit in like the little cracks, like, oh, I have 30 minutes and then I get lost doing something, versus like, oh, I have 30 minutes, I could do these two things.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a huge change for me. And I literally saw the idea it was a gal that was in the Diamond membership, and she had this mirror behind her and it had all these post-it notes on it. I'm like, what is all of that? She's like, oh yeah. So she was writing on post-it notes with the time in the corner. And I'm like, I love the idea. Don't love the sticky notes. So it was literally, I created them for my planner and I called them not so sticky notes. It was the same concept, but on paper, not on sticky notes, because Lord knows my desk would be a mess. And then I would lose them and it would just be a whole shit show. So
I love your planner because I was the sticky note person and I had them posted all over my monitor and I would take them off when I did the task. So your
Mhm.
planner was a pretty good godsend. Thank you.
thank you. How about you, Miss Denise?
Well, that, Elaine is staying in my genius zone.
Mhm,
Guess what? The technical piece isn't. So
mhm.
make you more busier and look at my task and I focus and get a little bit more discipline with my own boundaries on income producing things
Mhm. Yes.
and delegate, delegate, delegate
Mhm.
and stop trying to do it all.
Stop trying to do it. Yes.
And especially, once I get that down with one of them, you and I have talked about it, but I mean, for everybody else on here, my main goal would be to consolidate my businesses so they are time effective. So it really kind of feels like one job with that freedom. So for me, that would look like knowing when to outsource, knowing when other people can help me, and use a referral in real estate. There'd be knowing sequentially how to plan not only my launches, but my groups, my one-on-ones. And I can really work 20 hours or less and still make the same income if I was that disciplined, and I can have Monday and Friday off with the weekends. So it's there and I see it. But like you said, combining everything to be very diligent about the time effective, cost effective, and what's in my genius, and outsource when you can. Because a lot of us think that we can't afford to hire all that out and do all that, but it actually frees up so much time, allow you to make more money to be able to do that. So I'm watching that go into works right now, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Awesome. Teresa, or do you want to share anything about what you learned with us today?
Hi. Yeah, today, I love the color organizing of the calendar. I think that's a great idea. I'll definitely use that. And you suggested, well, from earlier, the earlier session, I had done on the Bend Chamber of Commerce website and found some great networking events and things that I can get involved with.
Yay.
So that was awesome. Thank you. There's a coffee I might even go to tomorrow morning. So that's great. But yeah, no,
Fantastic.
yeah. Thank you. So many great ideas. And yeah, I'm going to hopefully try and coordinate as much, incorporate as much as possible in my
Mhm.
plan.
Awesome. I love to hear that. Love to hear that. This has been super lovely. I have really enjoyed hanging out with you guys over the last 3 days. So thank you for showing up, right? I know it was going to be a commitment, but I was like, I'm going to attract those that need this. And that's all that I cared about. So thank you for showing up. And then tomorrow is bonus days. If you want to come and learn how I repurpose social media content, I'm going to spill my secrets and basically tell you how I do it, because it doesn't have to be that difficult. I promise. So I'll share that with you guys tomorrow if you want to come. And if you're not able to, I will post it in the member vault, so you can always watch the replay if you need to. And of course, I guess there's going to be a workbook. So watch your email for that. I will drop it into the bonus session. The workbook will be in there. So if you decide you want to download that in advance, you can do that and follow along. But that's a whole like multiple page workbook that goes with the bonus session. Okay, so we will see you maybe tomorrow. And I hope you guys all have a super wonderful day. Thank you again so much for hanging out. And don't forget, you get a time on my calendar. I put my link in the chat. Go schedule a time so that you and I can talk and I can help you figure out what's next for you. Promise, I'm not going to sell you a damn thing. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.